Few people understand the Vatican better than John Allen, a senior correspondent for the National Catholic Reporter based in Rome. When Pope Benedict announced his resignation, John started doing his homework on the cardinals who will most likely be considered for the job. This is Habemus Papabili. John, thanks for being here. Angelo Scola, 71 years old, Italian, currently the Archbishop of a major diocese in Milan. What do we need to know about Cardinal Scola?
Well, Scola is probably the closest thing we have to a front-runner in this race, or at least a guy who seems to be at the top of most people's lists. There would be a temptation maybe to write him off on that basis, on the grounds that he who enters a conclave as pope comes out a cardinal, but like so much conventional wisdom, that's bunk half the time. Joseph Ratzinger went in as a pope in 2005, and he came out on the other end as pope too, so I think you have to take Scola fairly seriously. In terms of his intellectual outlook, and of course he is an intellectual. He's a specialist in moral anthropology, former rector at Rome's Lateran University, founder of the John Paul II Institute for Marriage and Families, which now has a sort of branch campus at Catholic University in the States. Scola comes very much out of the same intellectual circles as Benedict XVI, part of the Communio school, along with Cardinal Ouellet from Canada and others. He also comes out of another circle, which is a Catholic movement born in Italy in the 50s by a Catholic priest by the name of Father Luigi Giussani, called Communion and Liberation, which is both a curse and a blessing for him. I mean, the blessing is, I think most people would see Giussani as one of the more interesting minds of the church in the 20th century. It also gives Cardinal Scola a base of support. But in the never-ending factional tribal rivalries of the Italian ecclesiastical scene, it also means there are some people who might be inclined to look at him, with a hermeneutic of suspicion, let's say. In addition, he also has a lot of pastoral experience governing complex dioceses and archdioceses. He was the Patriarch of Venice, which isn't that complicated in terms of its Catholic population. I mean, it's basically a large parish by North American standards, but because of its history, it's a big global platform. And now, of course, he's running the Archdiocese of Milan, arguably the most complicated, and certainly in terms of its infrastructure and its footprint, one of the biggest archdioceses in the world. So he brings a great deal of pastoral experience.
Benedict was a great theologian. Angelo Scola is a great theologian. Is there going to be, or could there be seen to be, perhaps a disconnect because of his theological mind with the average Catholic?
Well, I think the fear that Cardinal Scola, that a Papa Scola, would come off as a little dense and overly cerebral, is a concern among some people. I mean, I think there are some cardinals who would say we've had an extraordinarily intellectually rich papacy for the last 8 years. I mean, that is, the intellectual, scaffolding for the new evangelization has already been erected. Now we need somebody who can take the message to the street. And there might be some question about whether Cardinal Scola is the guy to do that. I mean, in my experience, having seen him in action over the years, I would say that when he comes off the cuff, that is, when he's playing the part of pastor rather than professor, he's terrific. I mean, he can be funny, he can be engaging, he can be accessible, he can put complex ideas in very simple formula. Problem is, if you let the guy sit at his desk for 3 hours and write an essay on moral anthropology, then, it's a little bit more of an acquired taste. But I don't think that the question about Scola is, can he be an evangelizer? I think the question is, does he have the right profile of the kind of evangelizer the church needs right now?
Does being an Italian help or hurt him or keep him neutral in this regard?
I think being an Italian is sort of a jump ball for anybody, including Cardinal Scola. I mean, on the one hand, there is, to be honest with you, something of an anti-Italian humor among some of the cardinals who are gathering for this conclave, not because they have any prejudice against Italians, but it's simply because they feel that the business management dimension of the Vatican has sort of gone off the rails over the last 8 years, and many of the people responsible for those breakdowns in their mind are Italians. And so I think there's a desire to shake that up a little bit. But on the other hand, they're also looking for somebody who knows the system from the inside, who they believe it's plausible to think could actually get it under control. The great thing about Cardinal Scola from that point of view is that, he's Italian and he's been in and out of the Roman scene his entire life, so he gets kind of insider credibility. But he's never actually worked in the Vatican, so, nobody can blame him for any particular thing they don't like. That might be a fairly attractive profile.
Thanks very much, John.
You're welcome.